In modern politics, few ideas sound as simple, yet trigger as much controversy as birthright citizenship. The principle seems straightforward. If you are born on US soil, you are an American citizen. But beneath this simplicity lies one of the longest and most emotionally charged legal battles in American history. This rule was not created for convenience. It was forged out of civil war, racial conflict, constitutional crisis, and repeated attempts to divide Americans into classes of belonging. To understand why birthright citizenship exists and why it is still under attack, we must trace its origins back to the darkest chapters of the nation's past. A constitution that forgot to define American. When the United States was founded, the Constitution carefully outlined powers of government, but strangely failed to define who qualified as a citizen. There was no clear legal definition of national membership. Instead, early America inherited a principle from English common law known as jus soli, or right of the soil. Under this tradition, anyone born within the king's territory automatically became a subject. This idea itself came from Roman law and was widely accepted across Europe. It stood in contrast to jus sanguinis, the right of blood used in many countries today, where citizenship passes through parents rather than birthplace. For America's first 7 decades, jus soli operated more as an assumption than a written rule. Courts applied it informally, but no statute clearly guaranteed that birth on American soil meant American citizenship. That legal ambiguity would soon become catastrophic. The case that split the nation in two. In 1857, the Supreme Court issued one of the most infamous decisions in U.S. history, Dred Scott v. Sanford. Dred Scott was an enslaved man who had lived in free territories and argued that this residence made him free. Instead, the court ruled not only that Scott remained enslaved, but that no person of African descent, free or enslaved, could ever be a citizen of the United States. The court declared that Black Americans were not intended to be part of the political community when the nation was founded. With this single ruling, the Supreme Court created a permanent caste system. Some people could belong to the nation. Others never could, not even their children. This decision didn't merely deny rights, it redefined America itself as a country of inherited exclusion. The ruling intensified sectional conflict and accelerated the path to civil war. War, Reconstruction, and a radical rewrite of citizenship. After 4 years of devastating conflict, the Union emerged victorious. Slavery was abolished. But ending slavery did not automatically grant equality. Lawmakers feared that Southern states would replace slavery with new legal systems that preserved racial subordination. Congress responded by attempting something unprecedented, redefining American citizenship itself. First came the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which declared that all persons born in the United States were citizens, regardless of race. President Andrew Johnson objected, warning that the law would grant citizenship not only to former slaves but also to Chinese immigrants and Roma communities. Congress overrode his veto. Yet lawmakers understood that statutes can be repealed. To permanently protect citizenship, they embedded it into the Constitution itself. Thus emerged the 14th Amendment. Its language was deliberate and sweeping. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Notably, the amendment never mentioned race. Instead of defining groups, it established a universal rule. Birth, on American soil with narrow exceptions, created membership in the nation. This was revolutionary. It made citizenship a right, not a privilege granted by government. The phrase that never stopped being debated. The key phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, soon became the focal point of controversy. Critics argued that children of immigrants were not fully subject to U.S. authority because of their parents' foreign allegiance. But the historical record tells a different story. Congressional debates from the 1860s clearly show lawmakers understood that the amendment would grant citizenship to children of immigrants, including Chinese migrants. One senator explicitly stated that the child of an Asian immigrant would be just as American as the child of a European. This matters because courts routinely use legislative intent to interpret constitutional language. The framers of the 14th Amendment knew exactly what they were doing, and they did it anyway. Not everyone agreed. The amendment passed by large margins, but opposition remained. That resistance never vanished. It merely waited for new political conditions. The first Supreme Court test. In the late 1800s, anti-Chinese sentiment surged. Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Acts, barring Chinese immigrants from naturalization. But these laws did not address the status of their US-born children. That gap set the stage for a landmark case. Wong Kim Ark was born in San Francisco to Chinese parents who were legal residents but not citizens. After visiting China, he was denied re-entry. The government argued that he was not American. In 1898, the Supreme Court rejected that claim. It ruled that the 14th Amendment granted citizenship to nearly everyone born on U.S. soil. Only 3 narrow categories were excluded: children of foreign diplomats, children of enemy occupying forces, and, under old law, certain Native American tribal members. Everyone else, including children of immigrants, was under U.S. jurisdiction. This decision cemented birthright citizenship as settled constitutional law. For more than a century, every branch of government accepted this interpretation. Law can be settled even when politics is not. Legal stability does not guarantee political peace. In the late 20th century, rising undocumented immigration revived old anxieties. Some politicians reframed the debate by arguing that illegal presence negated jurisdiction. But courts repeatedly rejected this claim. Being physically present in the United States, whether lawfully or not, places a person under American law. Police can arrest them. Courts can try them. Taxes apply. That is jurisdiction. Legal scholars across ideological lines agree. Altering birthright citizenship would require a constitutional amendment, not an executive order. Why the 14th Amendment is different. The 14th Amendment is not merely another law. It was a Reconstruction treaty written into the Constitution. Former Confederate states were required to ratify it as a condition of rejoining the Union. In that sense, it represents the legal rebirth of the nation. It marks the moment America formally rejected inherited caste and redefined itself as a civic nation rather than a bloodline. That is why the amendment is so resistant to political manipulation. Undoing birthright citizenship would not simply change immigration policy. It would reopen the country's most fundamental settlement over who belongs. The real stakes of the debate. Birthright citizenship is not an immigration loophole. It is the legal firewall that prevents the creation of permanent underclasses. Without it, citizenship becomes conditional, inherited, and politically adjustable. History shows where that leads. Dred Scott proved that when governments decide who can belong, rights become temporary. The 14th Amendment exists precisely to prevent that. It transformed American identity from ancestry to principle, from bloodline to law. A 150-year argument that never truly ended. Every generation seems to rediscover this fight. Presidents challenge it, courts reaffirm it, public opinion oscillates. But for more than a century, the legal system has spoken with remarkable consistency. Birthright citizenship is not an accident. It is a constitutional decision made to heal a fractured nation and prevent its division from returning. The real question is not whether the rule is old. It is whether the country still believes in the idea that law, not lineage, defines belonging. Because that principle is not just about immigration. It is about what kind of nation America chooses to be. If you found this breakdown useful, Make sure you like and subscribe because we publish deep, story-driven videos. These are the stories most people never hear, and once you understand them, you see the world differently. So don't miss the next one, like and subscribe, and I'll see you there.